Okay, Jeff, throwing it to you in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, the pandemic has been brutal on all of us. You'll meet a young lady who's on a journey back to joy, and she's inviting the world along with her. That's next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
I think most of us would agree that 2020 was a brutal year. It was a year of anxiety and fear, and that's just not a secret for success. So we're going to look forward to 2021 with some optimism. And joining me right now, Lisa Miller. She is the CEO of LWM Associates. It's a very successful consumer insights and innovation company. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate being here today.
Well, I love the name of the project that you're working on, Journey Back to Joy. What does that mean?
So what happened, it's really an interesting journey. And basically when the pandemic happened, in my business today, I support a lot of retail and a lot of restaurants. So you can imagine in March what happened. So businesses are coming to a halt. And what happened, people didn't even have an opportunity to do consumer insights because they're just figuring out how to keep the doors open. And so I basically took a step back and said, what can I do to help not only my clients, but help just the industry and business in general to get back on their feet. And as an insights person, there was so much free data available. But when I thought about it, we didn't need free data to say people aren't going to restaurants. We didn't need free data to say they're not shopping. So I wanted to take a different approach. And using the innovation principles throughout my career, I said, well, what's missing is joy, and we're all so scared. So I embarked on a research study, 1,000 consumers every week, and 25 waves later and 25,000 people later,
Amazing.
The journey continues. And it's so important because businesses, it's so easy to say, let's focus on the safety, and we need to tell people about safety. Well, people come to brands because they're looking for joy. And so when marketing to consumers to invite them back, you have to lead with joy, reassure with safety. And that's what's been very successful.
Lisa is working on a book. I'm assuming that the title is going to be Journey Back to Joy. It's
Yes.
a great name. Get the domain name if you don't already own it.
Good point.
And I wanted to show you just a graph that she put together, and I want you to explain it to us.
Yes, and so let me explain what's going on here. Is when you think about when you're told you can't do something, then you have pent-up demand. And so I wanted to measure that pent-up demand. So on the horizontal axis, what we're measuring is people saying, I can't do it anymore. But I want to do it, but I just can't do it anymore. And then on the vertical axis, it's how much joy does that give you? And so not all things are equal. When budgets are tight, what gives you the most joy? And then the size of the bubble was actually, what are you going to do first? And so when you create that three-dimensional look, pent-up demand, joy, and what am I going to do first? And what happened when we first did that chart back in April, the 3 things that came out were going to restaurants, people really missed that, getting their hair done, and going to church.
Wow.
And those were the 3 things that had the most pent-up demand. And what I'm doing now is I'm measuring the unlocking of that pent-up demand as businesses are reopening. And again, over 25 waves, we can see that. Restaurants are struggling.
Yes.
Shopping, retail therapy, they're doing a lot better.
Well, I love it that you are really into data.
Yeah,
that's your world.
That's my thing. That's my thing.
We're also going to put up an article, and I want you to explain this article and why it's relevant.
Absolutely. This was actually very recent in restaurant business, and my friend Barry McGowan at Fogo de Chao, we connected back in May, I believe, and I shared with him this premise of Journey Back to Joy. He sparked to this so much that he created his whole internal mantra and calling it the Journey Back to Joy. And why that matters is that, a restaurant like Fogo de Chao, it's all about the experience. And so when it came to holiday and all of that, they made sure that it was a joyful experience. And he is just steadfast to make sure that throughout, top to bottom, his organization is living and breathing Journey Back to Joy every day.
Wow. I know you work with a lot of powerful, very big companies. What are some other companies that come to mind when you think about the Journey Back to Joy?
Sure. A couple of their companies is like Signet Jeweler. They also, when you think about jewelry, the thing that makes this data and insight so powerful is that whether it's a restaurant, a jewelry company, WSS is another one of my clients, a shoe store, the principles of human desire for joy, not fear, is resounding. And so those are Signet Jeweler, WSS Shoes, those are also clients that have actually really embraced this and have had some really good successes around navigating this uncertain time that we're living in.
Well, I know there's no playbook for the pandemic. Even I, as a CEO, I didn't know what to do. I mean, gosh, we had for a brief period of time, we couldn't even use our beautiful studios, and so it's natural, I think, to be fearful. But using your methodology, can you fight that fear?
Yeah, I think what it is that, again, if you lead with joy first, that's a human emotion that can overcome fear. But what's important to know when consumers, when marketers and business owners try to dissect what's going on, one of the outputs from this is a segmentation framework. So there's a group of 5 segments. There's a group first out the door. They're the ones that are already out, venturing out. We have then on the far other side, those that are very anxious. And the reality of it is those people that are very anxious, they're not, no matter what you say, they're not ready to go out yet. So when it comes to marketing and using those precious limited dollars today, you really need to focus on the people that are ready to go out. And so that's why Leading with Joy works, because they want that, they crave that. At some point when those anxious people do come out, those safety protocols better be in place. And that's what's hard for business owners is that as a pandemic, you can't lax those safety protocols. You need to make sure that you keep up with those protocols. There's visible cleaning, there's visible signs, because when those very anxious people come, you better be ready, because they're not ready.
Do you think it's the pandemic has made us all just kind of appreciate the small things? I mean, going out to a restaurant, you mentioned going to church. I think we all took it for granted, didn't we?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think others will probably agree is that we're human creatures that are social. And so when you take away those social dynamics of gathering at a restaurant, gathering at church, even just the self-confidence of getting your hair cut, those are important things to give us joy. And so people need to be able to capture that and re-harness that joy. And it's up to companies to find ways within their own business frameworks to deliver joy and remind people why they came to you in the first place.
Wow. Lisa, I could talk to you all day. We're almost out of time. So final thoughts. What would you like to leave the audience with?
Well, I think if the one thing to remember, lead with joy, reassure with safety. And it is possible to navigate out of this really difficult time. And just remember why your customers love you today, and focus on that. And then know that leverage hard data is always good to help you make decisions.
Wow, you have been an awesome guest. We're going to have you back again soon.
Perfect, thank you. It was a pleasure.
We're going to end with your website so everybody can get in touch. Lisa Miller, and the website is LWM-Associates.com. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
You bet. And that's it for now. We'll see you next time. It was wonderful. I thought it flew by.
It did fly by. I was like, oh, I know that's
No, honestly, I like to